Hey guys, this will be an introduction for our line names project. What we're going to do is we're going to use our initials and we're going to use vector software in order to create a really interesting looking piece of artwork. The first thing we want to do is open up Adobe Illustrator. If you go down to your search bar here, as it might not be on your desktop, and you can type in CS6 and it comes up that way, Adobe Illustrator 64-bit, or you can type in Illustrator down here and you see it here, Adobe Illustrator CS6 64-bit. It has this AI as the icon. Once you're in the program, it's just going to look blank for now until we open up a blank canvas to work on, which is basically the sheet of paper you can think of as that you work on, your workspace. In order to do that, go to File and go to New. This box will come up and you have to name it. Just put your last name and put line names. And we're going to write thumbnails for this part. As far as the size of the project, I think it'll be good to start with an 8.5 by 11. That's like a standard sheet of paper. So if we go here, mine's set to the width being 5.5. I want that 8.5, 8.5, and the height to be 11. Okay, hit OK. And you see I have a blank, what looks like a blank piece of paper, which is called the canvas. That'll be where all the artwork takes place. As I mentioned previously, Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based drawing software, meaning you can make things to any scale because the computer uses shapes to kind of draw the objects so they don't distort no matter what size they are. To illustrate that, I'm just going to go over to my text tool, drag a box, and I'll put a S. Okay, now if I zoom in on this I'm going to hold Control and plus sign. You can see no matter how far in I go, it does not distort. Oop, missed it. So right now I'm at 6,400% zoom, you can see in the bottom left corner, and yet it's still a perfect line. I could blow it up that big on a billboard and it would never change. What I want to do now is make my S really large on my page. And one way I can do that is with the text tool, right? If I go in the text menu and I could change the font size. But the problem with that on Illustrator is that if you make the font bigger than the box, it's going to disappear because it'll think it's down below somewhere. So if I'm sure that I like the font and I like the style that it is, what I can do is I can basically create an outline sketch of the letter that I'll be able to scale easier. So if I use the black arrow, the selection tool, and I select my S, I can go up to the type drop down menu and go to where it says create outlines. When I click that, my S looks the same, but actually what has happened is that the computer created a trace of it, and now the S is kind of like treated more like an object than a letter. It's more like a thing. And this I'll be better able to scale up and down. If I hold Shift while I drag the corner, I can drag my S without distorting it. And I want to make it pretty much so big that it touches the top and the bottom of my canvas. Okay. With my S highlighted, I have a couple different formatting options. So right now my S, if I look over here, there's two boxes, right? One is filled in and one is like an outline. The filled in one tells you what color the shape is. In this case, my S is now a shape or a thing, and it's filled in black. The second box here says stroke. The stroke is the outline of the shape. So the outline is also black in this case. If I wanted to change the color of my S, what I could do is, with it highlighted, I could either just pick a color off of this little chart here, and that is one way to do it, right? If you have that up, you might not have that tab open. You could also open this up and pick a color this way. This is also what's called the swatches little window here. They're kind of colors that already work good with the printer, so you know they're going to look good in a print format if you pick one of these swatches over here. So I have a yellow S with a black outline. I could even change the outline color if I double click there. If I want to make the outline much thicker, right, that's the stroke size. It says 1 point. That's really small. If I come up to the top here, up that a bit, and you see it changes the thickness of the outline. I just stretched my S a little bit so that it fit the canvas a little more, made it a little bit wider, touches all the edges and makes it a little bit better compositionally. The next thing I want to show you is how you can make more of like a calligraphic mark. If you go over here and choose the paintbrush tool, you have a bunch of different options up here as far as different kinds of lines and brushes that you could use. So if we want calligraphic, we want something that's going to go thick to thin. If we go down here, this says brushes library, and it gives you a lot of different options. If we go to artistic and calligraphic, you'll see that a lot of them are oblong shaped or flat. And the reason for that is, right, if you want the mark to go thick to thin, you use kind of a flat thing, and it will, when you hit a certain point, it'll thin out, right? So depending what kind of angle, maybe you try a few different ones this, but let me try this 40, size 40 flat one. I have to pick a color. Blue, okay. Fill is blue, stroke is blue. Let's see. Okay. Thick to thin. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It does the job, right? It could maybe get bigger. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. But it goes kind of medium, thick, thin, thick again. And it's a nice contrast with my other more regular kind of S, right? I could try a different one over here if I want. Pretty similar, I guess. What I want to do at this point is I want to create some kind of background color. It's a little boring with it being white. And so what I can do is I have to drag a rectangle the size of the canvas. In order to do that, choose the rectangle tool here. This can draw any kind of shape. If you click and hold, right, you can draw any kind of shape here, but we want a rectangle right now. So if you don't see a rectangle here, you might just have to click and hold and choose rectangle. You choose a color that you want it to be. I like this light red kind of color, and I'm just going to try to fill the whole canvas. And notice that it went on top, right? And I want it to be on the bottom. So if I go up to Object, I can go to Arrange, and I want to send it to the back. You might have done this in other kind of Microsoft programs. Send to back, it just goes below everything else. And I can still edit the shape. If I go here, I can still change the fill, right? If I want a little bit brighter red, but I'm going to stick with my light red color. I think it's nice in the middle. If your rectangle has some kind of outline on it, right, that's the stroke. You can just get rid of the stroke because it'll just be up to the border. My last initial is another V, so what I'll do is go back to my text tool. I'm going to choose a different kind of style of font, so let's make a V. You know, you can mix upper and lowercase too. You can mix italic or bold. Let's go italic. Oh, I have to highlight it. The one thing that's a little weird is that it doesn't really show you what it's going to look like in Illustrator here, whereas Photoshop will kind of show you on the page what the fonts look like. So you kind of have to just go through and pick different ones till you find something that you like. Remember, I can select it and go to type, create outlines, and that makes it into an object that I can do anything with, right? I could rotate it. If I want to rotate, if I come up to the corner, right, I can kind of give it a different angle. I'll change the color and I'm going to send it down to the back somewhere. Maybe I'll go with a nice kind of something dark blue for contrast. Arrange, send backward. And what we basically created is a thumbnail. It's like a small version of something big, meaning this is like could be one of our tiles in our big design, right? If you look at the finished samples, you notice that we usually kind of alternate the tiles together to create the finished product. So we're going to need a few of these different ones. So try using your initials, create a few different variations on your initials and save them all. We'll hand those in for a small grade, and then the final project will be worth a project grade.